will we find any better purchase in Chirac?
I think it's reasonable to assume we might, Scott. It's certainly a lot more original.
Well, it's another remake.
Yeah, but I think its time's probably come around, Scott.
Yeah.
2.5 centuries, 2.5 millennia, sorry. It's probably all right. Yeah. Now, I assume you're all familiar with Aristophanes' Lysistrata, yes?
Intimately.
No. Oh. Well, I admit there are gaps in my 5th century BCE Greek theatre knowledge too. How I lament our education system. Anyway, for those of you not in the know, Aristophanes' comic play was about the women of Athens and Sparta during the Peloponnesian War who, led by Lysistrata, denied their husbands and lovers sex, the only thing they desired more than bloodshed and warfare. The purpose? In order to enforce an end to the hostilities and the attendant death and destruction. Chirac, incidentally Amazon Studios' first production, from a script by Spike Lee and Kevin Wilmot, sees the action updated to contemporary Chicago, particularly the Englewood neighbourhood of the city's south side, and gang violence between the Trojans, led by Wesley Snipes' Cyclops, and the Spartans, led by Nick Cannon's Demetrius Dupree, better known as Chirac. I think it's probably obvious, but just in case, it's worth pointing out that Chirac is a nickname given by some residents of Chicago to the city to compare it with Iraq, as many Americans pronounce it, suggesting that the violence in the city is comparable to that country. So, after a number of violent incidents, including the death of a child, Chirac's girlfriend, Lysistrata, played by Teyona Paris, leaves him, seeking refuge in the home of Angela Bassett's Helen Worthy, a non-violence advocate and victim of gang violence, who urges her to investigate the actions of Leima Gboe, a Liberian peace protester who helped to end the Second Liberian Civil War by, amongst other things, threatening a sex strike. Recruiting the, initially unwilling, help of the girlfriends, wives and partners of the enemy Trojans, Lysistrata begins the sex boycott, managing to enlist the support of even the city's sex workers, before taking over the local National Guard armoury, after which her protest of "No peace, no pussy" goes global. After a many-month siege of the armoury, in which the male-led police force's best tactic to remove them is Operation Hot and Bothered, which amounts to playing slow jams certain to get the women in the mood to move up and down rapidly in that curious way that humans find so agreeable. The heterosexual, male-dominated world is now at a standstill, and the President of the USA empowers and blames the Mayor of Chicago to end the crisis, resulting in agreements to build much-needed hospitals and trauma centres in Englewood, and much-needed truth and reflection. Now, Chirac's definitely not going to be for everyone, as the direct-to-camera exposition and narration by Samuel L. Jackson's Dolomides, in full-on, super intense Samuel L. Jackson form, and in particular the rhyming dialogue of the bulk of the film, stand a good chance of being found irritating. But fortunately, I quite enjoyed it. It's colourful, inventive, often funny, political and truthful, without really feeling preachy, despite much of the more serious dialogue being delivered by John Cusack's actual preacher. It is very uneven in its aesthetic though, sometimes feeling like film, sometimes like filmed theatre, and sometimes feeling like filmed protest or even art installation. But, well, it's an interesting experiment from a filmmaker still willing to take chances, and I will always welcome that.
Yes, I mean, as we all know, poetry is for losers and weirdos. So, I don't know, Chirac on that level didn't do an awful lot for me. I perhaps was finding the artifice of it a little bit annoying. But I'm glad that it exists. It's a really bold and different experiment. I've never seen anything like this. And most likely I'll never see anything like it again. It's a riot of colour. Wesley Snipes is fantastic, even though he's not really in it all that very much. I do wish he had a kind of bigger role, because Wesley Snipes is great. Yeah. Nick Cannon, to be fair, is alright. A bit of hot bother for him at the minute, but that aside, everything else is, I can't really fault it. I find John Cusack's character a bit... It's not that anything he's saying is particularly wrong. Of course, he's in the right for everything that he says. It's just the way he delivers it seems a bit too preachy, as you say. But again, he's a preacher, so what are you going to do? I'm glad this film exists. It's not really for me, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who will find a lot of love for it. It will just be managing to connect those people with the audience. It's so strange a film that the elevator pitch for it is kind of difficult. In a lot of ways, I'm just wondering how this got made. I guess that's the benefits of owning your own production company. It's easy enough to pitch it to yourself, but I can't imagine you can't imagine this going through many committees to rewrite anything. You know what I mean? It's a really distinctive and individual piece of work, and in the context of Spike Lee's filmography, it's absolutely worth viewing because it is so unique and such a interesting spin on events. So yes, there's lots of positives I can have for it. I mean, personally, I didn't like it all that much, but I didn't hate it, and I can certainly appreciate the content of it.
I do wonder if Amazon Studios knew what they were getting here. I can see when they're trying to get started as a production company being attracted to a name like Spike Lee, whether they knew that they were getting an adaptation of a 2,400-year-old play or not is debatable. I'm curious, but yeah, I had issues with the film certainly, but I enjoyed it. And even if I hadn't, I think I would have been happy that something like this existed. Yeah. This level of polish, this production value, and the director it had, and the stars it had, Amazon was just starting out as a production company at the time. Obviously, with this being their first, but I think this is just when they were starting to try and fill up Prime Video with their own work. And there was like that sort of backing behind them. I really appreciate that it exists.
Yes.
And it's really interesting, and it really is funny in parts. But not all of it lands. But I appreciate that they tried.
Yes.
And that's the key thing. It's really interesting. I agree with you that there should be more Wesley Snipes, because there should basically always be more Wesley Snipes.
Yes.
As we discussed in our episode covering the works of Wesley Snipes a little while ago, it's like, actually, he's really good.
Yes.
I think he's not a name that pops to the top of most people's minds a lot of the time. And perhaps because he was out of the spotlight for such a long time because of his problems with tax evasion's the word, I guess, for him. But yeah, he's really good. I just wish he was in more stuff. And also, he just reminded that, and even a very small role, Angela Bassett is incredible.
Yes.
And we should have more Angela Bassett in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unique. This is a really unique film. I have not seen anything like it either. Certainly not with this level of polish.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think even if you didn't like it, in the end, at the risk that it's not something you enjoyed, I think anybody interested in Spike Lee's work at all should absolutely check this out, because it's so unique and it's so interesting. And really, the fact that he's still taking these sorts of chances is great.
Yeah, yeah.
He's never got stuck in a groove, Spike Lee. I mean, but with the exception of double dolly shots and stuff, and the other visual spikeism that is in a lot of stuff, but didn't really start bothering me until this film, which is his double takes. Because there's that service, got the funeral service, which is almost like James Brown's service in the Blues Brothers. It's so upbeat, it's kind of weird. But that is full of double, maybe even triple takes. And what is that representing? I don't know what that's meant to say. It doesn't say anything to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Puzzling. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the point of that, but beyond that, yeah, I just like that it's so different.
Certainly different. I'll give it that much, yeah.